Welcome to the LeadForward Summit 2026, Leaders in Motion on Purpose, brought to you from the Mentoring Club. Wherever you are in the world, it's a good morning or a good evening or a good afternoon. We just know we wish you well. I'll be your session moderator for this panel discussion. My name is Ogenabo Dafiaje. I'm a project execution leader with over 17 years of extensive experience across two major industries, the FMCG and the oil and gas industry. And I will be your session moderator for this session. And I'll just take us through some housekeeping rules. Please note the chat is disabled. Put your questions in the Q&A section, and we'll review and address your questions to the speakers at the appropriate time. We may also enable your audio to allow you to ask your questions if we have enough time for that. Panel discussion we'll be having is Women in Motion, Mentoring for Empowerment and Leadership Growth. And our panel speakers are Nimrit Grewal, Sonali Somyalipi, Sarah Edgren, Pete Alexander, Manju Abraham, and Aaron Vakaran. Our panel moderator, unfortunately, would not be with us, Leslie Peterson, but we have a capable standing in the person of Leslie. So I will hand over to Leslie at this point to introduce our panel speakers, and then we'll have the discussion from there. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. So this is our second annual LeadForward Summit, and welcome to our panel speakers here in the room. Sonali, Sarah, Pete, Manju, and Aaron. And Nimrit can't make it. I was just telling the other panelists earlier that her brother is having some wedding festivities, so she could not join us. But she did try to send us some videos for some informational background about her experience as a mentee. So with that, I would like to get started with the session. And you are in the as Oginovo said, you are in the session about Women in Motion, Mentoring for Empowerment and Leadership Growth. So we would like to tackle in this session the experiences that women from different backgrounds and industries are actually, how are they navigating through the world that they've chosen to work in and contribute, and how are they finding that empowerment through mentorship. And let me start the round of questions to all the mentors and mentees by pair. Let me start with, so I see Manju is already spotlighted. So Manju and Sonali, right? So please go ahead and just give a brief introduction of yourself for Sonali, and then answer this question. I'm always looking for the why. Why did you think that you need a mentor? And why did you choose to work with Manju? So in addition to your introduction, please answer those questions. And then for Manju, how did the two of you meet? And why do you think that you could help Sonali when she reached out to you? So let's start with you, Sonali.
Thank you, Liesl. My name is Sonali Somyalipi, and I'm an engineering manager at HP in the hybrid cloud storage organization these days. My expertise is in storage and distributed systems development, and I have led teams that are delivering high-performance structured and unstructured file, object, block storage solutions that target AI and mission-critical workloads in the industry. Talking about a mentorship and how it all began with Manju, it was about 3 months that I'd been in the engineering manager role. I had transitioned from being an individual contributor to a leadership role. And I realized very quickly that what got me here wouldn't get me where I want to go next, right? I knew I could only make the successful transition if I was honest with what I did know and what I didn't know, more importantly. And that's where didn't want to rely on trial and error. Rather, I leaned into actively seeking help. I leaned into actively seeking out folks who had already charted this path, right? Who knew how to navigate these paths and the unknowns of leadership, right, could be made bare in those conversations with them. Manju Abraham was then the VP of Engineering at Primary Storage for HPE, and I happened to be in the same organization as her. And her voice as a leader, bringing the organization back post-COVID, stitching the fabric of our culture together while she was also delivering incredible technical outcomes and business outcomes, was very inspiring to watch. And I'm glad I'm here to talk more about all of that today and what I learned. But essentially, Manju's interests and areas of focus inspired me, and I decided that to reach out to her. And what ensued was wonderful work that we could do together. Thank you.
So I guess I'd summarize that from inspiration to action, and now we're here.
Absolutely.
Okay. Manju?
Hi. Thank you, Sonali. And my name is Manju Abraham. I'm an engineering executive who has been building and scaling organizations across Fortune 100 companies like HP, NetApp, Hewlett Packard Enterprise, and also startups like Delphix. So I have over 30 plus years of experience bringing global diverse teams together to deliver these high quality systems infrastructure products across compute, storage, networking, and data management and security. So leading large teams of hundreds of really smart engineers to empower them, to coach and support them to reach their potential, that brings me a lot of joy. And I'm passionate about supporting women and diversity and inclusion initiatives to help improve the workplace environment as well. So I was an executive sponsor for multiple ERGs and led DEI councils at companies. At HPE, I was the inclusion ambassador as well. And I'm actively involved in mentoring, coaching women, and teaching and learning from other leaders across the industry. So I'm on the board of directors of Women's Empowerment as well as charity nonprofits and volunteer at many more. So I live in the Bay Area with my husband, and I'm a proud mother of two daughters. So I met Sonali, like she said, at work, and she reached out to me with a long list of questions. So I agreed to meet her, and soon I immediately saw her potential, her thirst to learn, and her aptitude, which I felt was kind of repressed and being held back. So as an Indian woman, an immigrant, I take my duty as a role model very seriously. I think we need more women role models so that, I'm giving the message that if I can do it, you can too. And so as someone who's been treading the path that she would be on with a lot of lessons learned and scars to show, being an only in leadership roles in these technology organizations, I knew I could help and guide her and probably help her break some of the barriers we set on ourselves, at least as women. So that is how we met and continued to work together.
Thank you. So now I would like to address the same question to set the same sets of questions to Aaron and Sarah.
My name's Sarah Edgrins. I'm the Vice President of Program Operations at Singularity. I've been with the company for a little over 10 years, and my passion is, creating high-end experiences for global audiences that can come either to the Bay Area or anywhere around the world and have an experience where they walk away having learned and met interesting and new people. One of the reasons that I've always felt important to reach out and find a mentor like Aaron is truly having someone to help guide and create that path for me, or not create the path, but help me create the path from experts that have led. And when I first met Aaron, it was when he first started becoming involved in Singularity, and got to know him kind of on the surface level. But then when I stepped into my leadership role at the company, got to know him more closely, and really continued to be impressed by his leadership skills, and just knew that I wanted to soak up whatever I could from him and continue learning and becoming a better leader with his support and mentorship.
Why did
Yeah.
you think that you would be a good mentor to Sarah?
Everything Sarah is absolutely true, and she's maybe not giving herself enough credit, as is often the case. But I came into Lead Singularity about 3 years ago, beginning of 2023, and had been an advisor to the company prior to that. And I got to know Sarah, who was a manager at the company and was leading a lot of our operations. And the truth is that the person that was her boss and was on the leadership team, we had to make an immediate change for that person to depart the company. And so Sarah got a bit of a battlefield promotion. And I had already identified her and gotten to know her as somebody who was super capable and had a lot of leadership potential, but just hadn't really been given the chance yet to step up into that. And so making the change with the person who was there before, I was really confident in doing that and knowing that Sarah could step up into that, position. And so we promoted her to vice president, oversee all of our program operations. And but we started working together really closely because she had not been in that type of leadership position before, but I knew she had the skills and the potential and just needed to be given the chance and the support to do it. And now it's been 3 years later, and we've done a lot of great things together.
And for our audience, your background, Aaron, before Singularity University, have you always been in the education tech field?
No, well, not exactly. So I came from an investment VC firm called West River Group, which is a venture capital firm in Seattle. We invest in tech, also in some entertainment and life sciences and different things. But I've always been on the operations side of the business, where working with founders and companies that we invest in. And so this is my first time in a full-time operating role myself. As of 2023. So I'd been an advisor, board member of the company for a while, and then I kind of got drafted to step in and to take over after our last CEO departed.
Oh,
And I don't know if I'll ever go back. I really like leadership. Being an investor is fun. It's a whole different ball of wax being in the seat with leading a team.
Well, I was going to say, there you go. You have one hard post already built in Singularity with Sarah, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We have a whole team. I'll be honest, it was difficult even choosing, because we have an incredible team of women leaders at the company that I get the chance to work and mentor all of them. Although oftentimes they're the ones mentoring me, is the truth.
I can relate to that. And Pete, let's bring Pete on the floor also. And Nimrit didn't have a chance to record her introduction. So what I'll do is I'll provide some background information to all of you here in the audience who's watching and listening. Nimrit is a mentee in the mentoring club. She's one of our first few mentees that when I was just thinking about the idea of setting up the mentoring club, she was one of those that I, brainstormed with what she thinks about a community where people can connect with each other. And so when I established it, she signed up. And when she signed up, her situation was she was an auditor at Ernst & Young. And she got really burnt out on the long hours. The work is actually what she studied for, and she's doing the work. However, she realizes that that's not what she enjoys doing, and she realized that she has this calling for being a behavioral therapist because she was inspired by her cousin who has Down syndrome. So because of that early connection that we had, I was her first mentor for that transition from audit to behavioral therapy. And so we worked through how she could get into that field. And then after that, she was able to get a job in that field. She was able to get certifications. And then she decided she wants to extend that passion for helping people with disabilities to do a startup that produces footwear and clothing for people with disabilities. And with that, she got a second mentor, Mo Rubenzal, who is in the marketing, leadership, branding area. And so at that point, she had her behavioral therapy work, her business, and she was starting to feel stressed out. And so when she actually shared that with me, I said, "Oh, I know the best person for you to connect with as a mentor." So, and that is Pete. So Pete, go ahead for your introduction, and why did you think that you could help him read?
Sure. Well, thank you, Lucille. Well, just a little about me. I'm grateful to have many things to keep me busy. I'm the president of Office Plans by Everything Grows, an interior landscaping company. I've also served as an adjunct professor for several universities where I've helped inspire my students to develop marketing concepts specifically to their interest. I'm a two-time TEDx speaker, best-selling author on reducing stress. And lastly, but certainly not least, I also do volunteer work supporting the causes and organizations that I believe in, including laughter yoga in my local community, and also working with the mentoring club, mentoring mentees. And it's kind of interesting, Lucille, that you, as you mentioned about Nimrit's kind of path. When she reached out to me on the mentoring club, boy, I heard my younger self when she was reaching out to me, because she was heading right for that burnout. And it's something that I experienced firsthand. I ended up in the emergency room because of it. And I clearly wanted to help her because ever since it happened to me, I've been trying to help others avoid the physical and mental aspects of burnout. And it was great to work with her, because even though she was so exhausted and burnt out, she knew that she had to do something different, and she was willing to do the work to make a difference. And she excelled at that while focusing on her passions. So it's a real tribute to her.
Thank you.
We miss meeting her then today.
Well, you'll have other opportunities. She's also quite active when we meet once in a while. My next question to Sonali and Manju. When you started that relationship, what was that pivotal moment when you think you had already planned for something for your career, like for you, Sonali, right? But then you still think that there's something more. So what was that realization like for you?
I would hark back to the balance that I saw Manju walk with, right? And when I saw that, I think, let me take a step back. When I entered the engineering manager role, my focus was very much technical. Delivering outcomes was all I was thinking about, and growing.
And she was very good at that.
Thank you, Manju. So I definitely had a very narrow vision of leadership, let me say, right? And that's where, looking at what Manju was doing, there was this urge to emulate it, for sure. And that, I would say, was definitely a turning point, wherein number one, understanding that leadership is much more than just delivering outcomes, and it is about influencing lives, if I may say so, be it the folks we work with, be it the folks who report to us, of course, and so on. Secondly, I think it was about empowerment, right? And that, again, Manju so well embodied. Like I said previously, her voice in bubbling up issues and matters at stake that affected people that didn't look like her, or who were nothing like her. She still had that wider view of talking about those groups, right? I think that also was a big eye opener, to say that I am in a position now to not only work for myself, but I'm in a role where I can empower from here, right? So I think that was a switching point, where instead of cribbing about where I was, what my burnout level was, or where I was underconfident, etc., there was a shift in thinking about where someone else was, right? What could I do to better their position from there on? So
I believe in creating multipliers.
there you go.
Yes. So a quick follow-up question to Sonali's story, right? So you were in engineering, you were in product development, and as a woman in that position at that time, in HPE, did you see any specific challenges that was very prominent for women leaders or aspiring leaders in that group, that made you think that, if Manju was able to achieve that, how could I achieve that, right? So
I think one of the top questions in that list Manju talked about was about taking up space, right? As a new engineering leader, being a woman, I got this feedback again and again to be effective with my communication, to be concise with my communication, which is valid feedback, right? But then the pattern in how I was receiving it felt a little odd, and I found myself thinking about how much space I'm taking up, right? Whereas in slight comparison, it didn't feel like my male colleagues were thinking about it so much, right? I think I reached out to Manju with that very conundrum as to how do I balance this, right? How do I? It feels like if I speak up, that I'm too much, and if I don't, then I'm at the risk of becoming invisible, right? I think what Manju highlighted for me. And I was in the dark, that this is a systemic problem, right? That women have had to contend with for a long time. And right there, I think she changed the lens with which I was looking at this problem. This was not just me struggling with confidence. This was not just me bottoming out when it came to thinking about how competent I was or not, but it was much, much more widespread. Maybe Manju, if you want to add to that.
No, it is that double bind that we all have to deal with, and I have the scars to show as well. So yeah, it is easy if I had been through this, and it doesn't go away as a woman, especially in this industry. So from the mistakes I'd made, and I could tell her that, no, you need to take up space. You can be bold. You have earned it. You can do that. And it's easier to support others than supporting myself, frankly. But I had faith in Sonali, and I would continue to encourage her. I wish I had somebody to encourage me when I was struggling with that as well. And we all continue to struggle, by the way, right? Doesn't matter how high you go. It's still there because your style is different, your accent is different. Each one of those keeps coming back. Your style is something, each one of us should be allowed to live with our style and be allowed to be productive and get the best outcomes in our own way. instead of sticking to something that has been established by the majority. So that's something I could talk to her about and share my stories. I think sharing our own challenges, being vulnerable about that, is a good way to support and empower others too. And I try to do that with her. And I can see
So
the results. I'm very proud of what she has done.
well, congratulations to both of you. And so I guess that gives me a bit of the flavor and answer to the question, what was pivotal in you becoming a mentor? It's your own personal experience getting to where you are. And you just said you wish you had somebody that actually helped guide you through
Yeah, no,
that journey.
that is an interesting question because I didn't really grow up or have any formal mentors. I even as a woman, of my generation, I don't think I ever even asked for help because we are we grow up thinking, and also if we ask for help, people will assume that, oh, you don't have your act together. So we never used to ask for help. And that is, I was trying to actively change that part for others so that they can come ask for help, and I would always be available. I would, stretch myself really hard in trying to be available like that, but that was because of my own experiences of never feeling comfortable to ask for help because of, I would be judged. That is for sure. So, because I didn't have mentors, but then I grew up with amazing role models at home and around me who set those high standards. So, I've lived by those standards. Both my parents were rocket scientists. My mother is the first woman rocket scientist in her field in India, and excellence was the baseline at home. And I learned about excellence and perseverance and hard work and watching them. And I too started my career as a rocket scientist and continued to grow after moving to the US 25 plus years ago. But what shaped me even more than excellence was service. I think from my grandparents and my father, I learned that achievements without contribution is incomplete. And so you lift others up as you rise up. And as my career progressed, I also noticed something. Men and women were reaching out to me not just for career advice, but for clarity. They were capable. They had both the attitude and the aptitude, but what they needed was some perspective, maybe some validation, and sometimes even a firm nudge, a vision for themselves they hadn't dared to dream of. So I realized that if I could make the path slightly smoother, slightly clearer, or even less isolating for them, they would reach their potential further than they imagined too. So that's when mentorship became much more intentional for me, not as a charity or because of the hierarchy or any of that, but I took that as a responsibility, just like taking role modeling as a responsibility. So as a VP leading very large organizations, and I took that very seriously. So if I can do it, live boldly by my values, and I've stuck by my values and was very vocal about it and being authentic and be known for the way I led, then you can too. So in the men and women I mentor, I look for that hunger, that aptitude, discipline, and courage. And when I see that spark, I then invest fully. I've seen what that investment can do. I write. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Manju. I feel the passion for that, right? So the giving back for what you didn't have but have experienced in other ways through role modeling. So I'll go to Aaron and Sarah. So Aaron, you're a man, right? So we're talking about women
right.
in motion, and you're supporting Sarah. So let's talk about how did that happen. So maybe I will address this question first to Sarah, right? So what was that moment when you felt that being a woman, you have to, just like what Sonali mentioned, and you are both in tech, right? So a highly male-dominated field. What was that moment when you realized that I need to take care of myself?
I can definitely relate to Sonali a lot of being constantly told about taking up a lot of space, kind of being loud, being emotional. And that's true. I'm loud, I'm emotional. And to me, those are actually really strong suits that Aaron has helped me realize, leaning into those as my leadership. As Manju said, being bold, that is actually what sets me apart from some of my peers, is that I'm able to, as a leader, not only look at a solution from the strategic viewpoint of how to get something done, but also have empathy for my team members that are going through those projects, making sure I'm taking into account who's working on a project with their strengths, making sure it's people that work well together, all of those things that at times throughout my career have been told, like, calm that down a little bit. Maybe you care too much. And Aaron has really helped me realize how to lean into those things and make them strengths and make them things that people now come and know how, as a leader, I am and want to work with me because I care not only about my team, but about the company, about projects that we have. And so really once I realized that Aaron, one of the first, bosses and leaders that I've had, didn't get scared when I asked, like, how should I not be as emotional, and really pivoted that to, like, no, you should care about this and be emotional about it, but let's figure out how to properly communicate that. And to me, it really showed that, you know, it can be so hard at times knowing who to trust. And especially as a woman, kind of when you see a male leader, there's a thought of they might not feel a certain way about me. They might put judgment on, and realizing that Aaron, if anything, might have a bias towards women, and the skills that we bring to the table was really special.
Aaron, what do you have to say about that?
The truth is that there are all kinds of biases, gender biases that we see every day in the world, in the workplace in particular, right? And Manju spoke to some of them, and Sarah, we've talked about this for a long time. I think my responsibility as a leader, and in particular as a man, is to be a very strong advocate to fight those biases and identify where are they holding us back. Give you a couple of examples. One is the one you mentioned, is how people show up in meetings, and how women versus men communicate and talk, and they can be saying the exact same thing in the exact same way, and yet it's labeled totally differently, whether it's coming from a man or from a woman, right? And you see this when you're interviewing people. It's like they can give the exact same interview, and on one hand, for the man, you say, wow, that guy's really in charge and confident. And from a woman, you're going to label it as something totally different, right? As a negative thing of, oh, she's a lot, or she's too controlling, or whatever. So the biases exist. And another one is men are often judged more on their presumed or perceived potential is, and women are judged off of what they have already proven and not given credit for their potential. And so what you see happen a lot is there's women that already are doing jobs that are 1 or 2 levels above them, like without having gotten promoted, they have already taken on the responsibility or the work. And versus you see the opposite sometime in men, where it's like, oh, they've been promoted, and yet they, just because of they fit this type of, like, oh, this guy looks like and communicates like he's a VP of sales, but it's like may not be really actually show the results, right? So what we have done, or what I've tried to do, is be very conscious of those and act on them. So for example, with Sarah, it was, okay, she's a manager, has never been a vice president, and maybe doesn't have the number of years of experience compared to the people that had been in that position before. But if you take off, the reality is she already was doing all the work of that position, just hadn't been given the title or the raise or the actual responsibility. And that was happening all over the place in our company, and I've now seen it in other places. And so we work really hard to try to not just hear about them and brush them off when you go through a DEI training, but actively identify and take action on them, right?
Mm.
And it's been really enlightening for me working with the whole team, our whole leadership team right now, not by design, on purpose, but it happens that our whole leadership team is women at the moment, and it's an entirely different. It is a different experience and environment versus previously working on a team of a bunch of leaders of men, and most of which are older than me, and we're from a different generation. And I think it has created a much better culture. And there's a lot more treating people like humans and not like assets. And we have a very high level, I think, of empathy and care and kindness. But by the way, that does not take anything away from the ability to execute and make good decisions and be strategic. That's not a trade-off. So I wouldn't say, like, oh, well, we have this really nice team. That has nothing to do with our ability to execute, because the other truth is that with this team, the company has been profitable now for 2 years in a row after 14 years of losing money after being led by men. So clearly it's not a trade-off. If anything, it's both. It's a both and.
And it's great while listening to you and Sarah, and of course, in the background, I had a chat with Sarah a couple of weeks ago. It's one thing where the leadership, like a man like you who's in leadership, recognizes the need for advocacy for deserving individuals, in this case, women, to be recognized for the work that they're already doing. That's one thing. And that's really great support for those people who deserve it. But it's also another thing for somebody who has been told that you're taking a lot of space, but still spoke up for herself. So Sarah, can you give us a little bit of
that's not a problem
information
on our
about
team
that?
at all, is it?
No.
Give us a little bit more. So I'm putting you on the spot here to tell your story about speaking up for yourself, because in the audience, I would wish that they would learn from your stories, and they will also get that courage to speak for themselves.
Yeah, it can be really scary being your own advocate. And when, as Aaron mentioned, when the leader that was in my position previously left the company, there were all these questions of who would take over. And I was initially just offered a senior director role. And I was on the phone with another male leader at the company and our head of HR, and I just said no. Like, I've seen the job description of the former VP and literally walked through it and said, I'm already doing this. And I was scared out of my mind. I called my mom afterwards crying because I was like, they're going to fire me for saying, like, no, I'm not taking the promotion that you offered me because I deserve a better one. And then Aaron called me and I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to fire me now, obviously. And he just said, like, I need you to walk me through what happened. And I did for him. And he said, it was a Friday afternoon. And he said, okay, we'll talk Monday. And he then called on Monday and offered me my promotion to vice president. And, it is so scary knowing when you know your value, communicating that, but truly being able to do that will get you so much further. And when I look back on it, me being fired was me catastrophizing, because I know what the worst case scenario was that I just would have had to have settled for a senior director position. But instead, I got the promotion that I knew I deserved, that no one else besides me was going to share that I deserved that.
But the thing is, like, that's part of my point of, you have to be willing to take action. Like,
Yep.
If the right thing was, just because, it's like one thing to go from senior manager to a director, senior director to whatever, it would have been, the easy answer was to say, okay, we're going to give, it's a promotion and it's a raise, even if it's not the actual one to the right position or whatever, but it's still going to satisfy this person and it'll still be a right bump. It's like, no, if the right answer is she's doing the job of the higher level position, then that's what we're going to do because it's the right thing. And I'll give you, if I can take 1 minute, give you a different example that I think was inspiring. Earlier in my career, I worked on Topgolf. We were the lead investor, and my mentor, Eric, was the CEO of Topgolf, and helped build it for like 15 years. There was a point where we did an executive comp review, and it turned the whole leadership team, VPs and up, and it turned out that there were 2 people on the leadership team that were underpaid for their position. They were both women, and in both cases, once we benchmarked their position, they were underpaid by like 40%.
Wow.
And so the board said, okay, wow, well, that's not good. Let's give them a 10 or 20% raise to bump them up. It'll feel like a big raise for them. And so that'll be meaningful. And Eric said, no, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it. We're going to bring them up, and we'll give them a 42% in one case and like 47% in another case, which sounded ridiculous to offer someone that they weren't asking for this. It was just something we identified. And so we proactively said, no, this is not right. In particular, having these women on the leadership team that are so far underpaid for what they're doing. It doesn't matter if who cares if it's a 40% raise? It's the right move. And so we did it, and it was, obviously pretty well received, but it was the principle behind the thing of, you just do the right thing and don't cut it short just because, you can save an extra 10 or 20%. And it sounded crazy, but it's like the lesson to me was the bold move, or taking the risk to, let's promote Sarah to vice president, even though she hasn't done it yet, is still giving herself this bias of like, it's not even a bold move, and it's not even really a risk. It's just doing the right thing.
Yeah, that takes a rare leader. The example that you gave about Eric, that's a good example. Aaron, you had good role models there.
I am here because I am the product myself of great mentorship.
Going to Nimrit and Pete's mentorship. One of the questions that Leslie put forward that Nimrit provided a video on is about challenges. Like what were the challenges that she was encountering in that moment of she needs a mentor, right? So so I'll share this with you, and then Pete, I just want for you to give a reaction and whatever thoughts you have going back to that relationship that you had with Nimrit. Share with us some background information as well.
There was definitely a point during my mentorship journey that felt very challenging. I remember feeling pulled in so many different directions at once. I was trying to manage work, big career decisions, and my personal well-being was just going down. I also had the habit of saying yes to everything, and during that time, it really caught up with me. I was very overwhelmed, and I felt I was always behind, no matter how much I was working or just checking off things on my to-do list. That was when my mentors really stepped in, helped me slow down and reflect. They asked me honest questions about how I was spending my time, energy during my day, and how I was showing up as a leader and as a professional in my life. They encouraged me to set clear boundaries, prioritize my time and tasks, and be very intentional with my commitments. That experience shaped my leadership style, I would say. I learned that leadership isn't about doing everything all the time. It's also about prioritizing where your time, your energy belongs to, and then choosing to intentionally investing it in the work that truly matters. So that challenging period definitely taught me that a strong leadership voice comes from being self-aware, having good balance in life, and the confidence to make the choices that support your long-term growth, not just short-term productivity.
You were in the midst of those challenges, Pete. Please share with us your experience working with Nimrit.
Yeah, boy, I remember she physically was having a lot of health issues. That's what happens when stress just overwhelms us, and it was very concerning. And so I remember one of the first things that we did was I did a values exercise with her, and wanted to have her figure out what her top personal values were, because our top personal values is what's important to us, and how we spend our time, or how we should spend our time, and how we um, you know evaluate the use of our time. And so once she was able to identify those, then we looked at it and said, okay, what can we do to set boundaries as well? Because as she mentioned in the video, she was saying yes to everything, and that was a big part of it. She also had a lot of pressure from her family to be successful, in classically a traditional corporate role, the corporate role that she had before she moved into behavioral health and running her own business. And so being able to, be confident in saying, this is the right move, this is what I want to do. And all those things, we practiced kind of role playing with it. And each week we'd go back and say, okay, what worked and what didn't work? And it was amazing how in the span of roughly 4 to 6 weeks, how much her health had improved. And she had this energy, and Nimrit's got this wonderful energy and light that was being muted before. And it was just an absolute pleasure to see.
You mentioned a word about how she could be more caring about herself. And I said, oh, that's right. I wanted to play this video where she talks about the positive folder. And so that's what I was trying to bring up, and I had to mute myself again. So since we're in the topic, let me go ahead and play that for all of you. So you can see the benefit of the work between Pete and Nimrit in that mentoring relationship.
My mentor, Pete, told me about creating this folder. I call it a positive folder now. It's something I still use today. It's a space where I keep reminders of positive accomplishments or feedback or card or moments I'm really proud of. So during times when I feel very overwhelmed or doubt myself, I go back to that folder, and it keeps me grounded and reminds me of my capabilities as a leader. My mentors also helped me better understand my organization and planning style. Rather than trying to force a system that didn't work for me, they helped me identify what does work and showed me how to incorporate that into my daily life in a realistic way. That alone helped me a lot with my time management, planning, organization, and I just felt more in control of my time. Most importantly, they also encouraged me to reflect on my values. That shift helped me realize that leadership is about leading in a way that aligns with who I am. And through that process, I started to see myself as a leader who is thoughtful about her time, intentional and grounded in purpose, does everything that aligns with her values.
Those are the kinds of results that we don't plan. We're joyful when we hear of the results. I would like to ask all the mentors in this instance, if you were to go back and think of the time that you decided, okay, it's time for me to give back, or it's time for me to uplift others. Was there an instance where you thought, why didn't I do this sooner? Or was it just perfect timing? This is the time to advocate for people.
I think that the reality is we're all on a journey all the time, right? So I have been mentored myself since I was, young, since probably in school, coaches, and then my boss who's my continues to be really my only boss and mentor. And we all, just like he is on his journey 30 years ahead of me and is learning all the time and then passing things down. I also am on this journey where like I am also passing things down to those that come after me. And um it's so I think I've always been someone who, one, looks for mentorship, but two, immediately tries to pass that on. When I was 23, it wasn't mentoring people like Sarah, who are vice presidents of companies. It was mentoring students that were still in college and trying to figure out how to get their first job. And then when I was, 28, it was mentoring the people at my firm who had just graduated and were in their first 3 or 4 years of their career. And then now, there was a point where, I'd say it was about 3 or 4 years ago where it was, okay, I've had a lot of experience and I've been poured into a lot and taught a lot about leadership over the last 10 years. But I think it's time to actually put that to practice, not just read about it in books and sit around and think about it, but actually see, okay, can I really step in and not just mentor 1 or 2 people here and there, but to become a leader, which really is just being a full-time active mentor as a day job, right? I mean, I don't do sales or do spreadsheets anymore. My job is making sure that Sarah and the team that she works with can be the best they can be every day to do their jobs, which is kind of like that. So I certainly think that, just to kind of answer the question, I don't think there's ever a point where you just decide all of a sudden I'm ready to give back. I think we're never fully ready. We're always in the process of learning more. And wherever you are on your journey, I'm sure there's somebody a couple steps behind you that can probably learn from what you've done.
I agree with that. And for me, early on, I didn't know about mentorship. I think the next generation, maybe Aaron, being much younger than you probably, and Sonali and others, you all heard about mentorship and all that. So helping people was the way it started out. And then when you see the results and when you see the bulb glow, there is a joy that comes from that. And I think that is what motivated me. And so that kind of became that paying it forward became a passion and a part of who I am. And right now, for example, if many of us engineers here, there's less than 9% in globally of engineering leaders who are women. Imagine less than 9%, right? So we have an organization called CTO where I'm actively mentoring. There are a lot of women in the last 2 years who lost their jobs as leaders. But how do I make sure that women don't give up? I have had to mentor several women, fantastic, great engineers, going up in leadership ladder, but you have a child or you go through challenges in caregiving or so in the family. And usually it's the woman who's tapped into first, okay, you should take time off, or you should and give up your job so that you can take care of the child. And women usually do that. And I remind them, you know what? Other than giving birth and breastfeeding, everything that we do with these 2 hands, men can do too. So let's make sure that they are aware of that. It is a father's responsibility also. Do you think they will consider even that question of giving up their job for this responsibility that you have? Right? There will be other solutions. So I have had to walk many people off that ledge. And so that part also is motivating to make sure that we continue to have women leaders. We need women leaders up there so that we can have more brought up like that.
Yeah, absolutely. You find those circumstances where you just realized I have to do something about this, and and taking action, right? So
to be an ambassador, to be right. And it's a responsibility that all of us who've been privileged to have the opportunity to grow should continue to give. Yeah.
Yeah. So Pete, would you like to add to that?
It's interesting how, Manju, you mentioned about being basically giving birth and breastfeeding. And yes, of course, I have 2 children of my own. And I remember back when my daughter was born, she's the oldest. And at the time, so there was only, I can't remember if it was 6 weeks or 3 months at that point that my wife had time off.
I'm sure 6 weeks.
6 weeks, yeah. I think it was.
You're dreaming of it at our age? No, there's no 3 months.
Yeah, this was back in 1996. So
definitely not.
Yeah. So, what was interesting was after that 6 weeks, it was me who started taking care of my daughter. And the reason was it was a very easy decision between my wife and I. My wife had the better job. And so she went back to work, and she actually, she was looking forward to going back to work. And so she did. And then as we continued to progress, then it was more of a balance. We never actually had daycare other than a little after school stuff once my daughter got to be 5 years old. But it was interesting how I remember her boss expecting her to either not come back to work or only come back part-time, because it was a stereotype that her male boss was referring to. And so it was interesting in this conversation how I hadn't thought of that in 30 years. And so so I love these discussions because it really gets me thinking.
And I have another example where somebody like this, the man in the couple took time off and went back, and they said, "Oh my God, you're so good," and he got promoted. And his wife, who went back soon after, because yes, she was having the higher paid job, or maybe she wanted to go back, and he was happy to enable her to do that. She went back, and they kept on penalizing her. How can you leave the child at home? And so that's a motherhood penalty. So, and when these stories are shared, it's just amazing the bias that is there, the motherhood penalty. But there is a lot of neuroscience studies that are happening right now, which show that it is not that women are more nurturing or anything. If a man is put in that same situation and he has the responsibility and he is willing to take ownership, then they have all of those same behaviors as women do. There is nothing extra in women other than during childbirth and feeding. That's neuroscience has proven that.
Yeah, nurture over nature, right? It's the roles that we're put into and the expectations. Exactly. I think that
it's expectations. Yeah, and somebody has to take ownership. If the women takes on, they just take ownership because they feel there is nobody else.
Our theme, all right, so women in motion, and then the theme of the conference is leaders in motion on purpose. Give us some thoughts that you have when you think about that direction, like in motion. What does that mean to you? So maybe I can address this first to Sonali and then to Sarah.
Thank you, Liesl. I think being in motion for women is moving upwards, right? And what Pete just referred to, right? When someone was at the cusp of motherhood and they were poised and in a place in their career where they clearly were successful and hence had the option to go back to work, that's somewhere every young woman would want themselves to be by the time they're ready for motherhood, right? And that's what made me think that at this time, having a theme like this, Women in Motion, where we are pushing our women to grow, to have that growth in a timeline that also works with the biological timeline we are imposed on, to live with, is something that I wish the industry and other industries also think more actively on, right? It is imperative to accelerate and make the best use of those early years, and to know that you know the luxury that men might have that isn't often afforded to women, right? So that's where doubling down as leaders to extend the validation, extend the challenges, ahead of time rather than postponing them, especially when it comes to women, having in mind that there is a clock ticking. I think that's what I'm thinking of right now as I think of it, right? That we afford to our women opportunities early on, and not put off what we can extend to them, and challenge them enough so that they can grow and really fruition early in their careers.
So the continuous motion towards what they aspire to achieve, not just from a physiological standpoint, like being a mother, but whatever it is that they put their attention to, that motion has to be continually nurtured in women. That's what I'm getting from what you said.
Not putting it off, right? Bringing it on early and bringing it on strongly, and then supporting them to entrench in that, get entrenched and drive from there.
When we talk about motion, also it doesn't necessarily mean climbing the ladder or any of those. It's about, like you said also, Lisa, what you want to do, what you aspire to do. So motion can also mean you are in a hamster wheel, but are you moving forward? That part is also important. And that means there is a direction. So you need to know the direction rather than just being busy, figuring out that direction and then walking towards that or surging towards that. So that part is also important. So how do you learn? How do you evolve? How do you understand yourself? And do you decide what you want? And how do you create that agency for yourself? And then network and connect with people who can help you build that up, building that courage to do more. And so that direction part is also, I wanted to add that. And being excellent, of course, is a given. And on top of that, how do you move forward, motion towards that? While you move, if you take others with you, that's the role I feel I chose to play as well.
Yes. Okay. So that's why we're leading forward with this summit. And so, Sarah, share with us your take on leaders in motion on purpose and women in motion. And then just looking at the time, after that, I would just like, so this will prepare all of you, and you get a break, Sarah. You don't have to answer this right away, but the parting words that I'd like to ask from all of you is that if you could think of 3 words to describe your journey so far in your life, in your career, what are those 3 words that you would like to impart to our audience? So, Sarah, I'll give you the floor first, and then we'll have the others answer that question.
Yes, thank you, Lisa. To me, the Women in Motion with Purpose, to me, the purpose is what I'm really drawn to. And being in motion doesn't always necessarily mean up. It means not being on that hamster wheel, as Manju explained, and moving forward with intent, knowing that there will be roadblocks, things that won't go according to plan, mistakes you make, mistakes your team make, but continuing to know that what you're moving towards has purpose and impact, And to me, that's really the driving force that I see in leadership as a woman.
So echoing pretty much what Sonali and Manju has already said in terms of motion forward. Thank you very much. Now, 3 words to describe your journey so far, either as a mentor, as a mentee, or in your profession, or as a father, as a mother. All of those rolled into 3 words that comes to you right now, right? So let me start with Pete.
Well, let's see. 3 words. I'd say as a mentor, and specifically for Nimrit, one would be just guiding, as she talked about being able to help her on a weekly basis with the challenges that she was experiencing, both in professionally and personally. Enlightening, because I was learning from her. That's one of the joys of being a mentor, is I often will learn as much, if not more, from my mentee than any other interactions I have. And I would use fulfilling as the other word, because seeing the success that Nimrit had, it reinforced for me that I was making a positive difference, which has been my life's mantra. So those are the 3 words I would use.
So guiding, enlightening, and fulfilling.
Correct.
Got it.
I think my 3 words have to be believe in people.
Okay. That says it all, right?
That says it all. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I have achieved more than I probably ever thought was capable of, looking back, looking ahead from 10 years ago. And I'll tell you, I have been more than rewarded for believing in other people. And in fact, have every time you give someone a reputation to live up to, or a chance to live up to a goal or an expectation, it's always worthwhile.
Mm-hmm. All right. Manju?
I would think of, we were just doing the values exercise with Mo earlier. So I was thinking of service, lift up, and multiplier.
Okay. Sonali?
I think for me, foremost, my son comes to mind. So, and with him comes joy. At work, it is learning, and what's very aspirational is giving. Just all around. So
Okay.
those are the words: joy, learning, and giving.
Got it. So I'm writing this down because this will be my inspiration for for the days ahead.
Thank you.
Sarah?
Yes, I think the 3 words that come to mind for me, both as a mentee, leader, and new mother, are challenge myself, challenge others, have compassion for others and myself, and fun. As to me, one of the biggest points of life, as Sonali mentioned, of joy with her son, is to have fun while being a leader, mom, friend, and all of everything else.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much to all of you. So to our audience who are still with us, thank you for participating and listening to the stories. I hope you got a lot from the stories, the journeys of the speakers, our panelists and friends have shared with us. So these are their parting words: guiding, enlightening, fulfilling, believe in people, service, lift up, multiplier, joy, learning, giving, challenge, compassion, and fun. So when we started this session, I told the team, okay, come on, let's have fun. and it's so real. So thank you very much to all of you, and I will turn over the floor now to Ogenobu.
What a wonderful session we've had. learned quite a lot from all the panelists in the session, and I really appreciate the time you've taken to share your experiences with us. Thank you very much. So just before we go, I want to share with the audience a few of our offerings in the mentoring club. So you can scan the QR code, and then take a survey. If you could complete 6 sessions, and you get a coupon code for 6 months free subscription as a mentee. Okay, so just take a few seconds, scan the code, and complete the survey. We would like to have as many of you register as mentees or mentors. So if you want to register as a mentee, kindly scan the QR code for mentees. And if you want to register with us as a mentor, scan the QR code for mentors. So we have other workshops coming up. You can get a discount of 25% when you sign up today by scanning the QR code. And then you can pick any of the workshops you see on your screen.
I joined Mo's workshop on branding. It was really good.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. So please, you've gotten a testimony. Please, so yeah, they join the sessions. And then our 10th year anniversary bonus. Yeah, good. 10% discount when you sign up for the VIP pass today, just for $1,170. Okay. Our next session will be mentorship and the organization's higher brain state. However, we will be sharing a video with you about the mentoring club from our technical team. So do watch the video while you prepare to join the next session. Thank you for joining us tonight, or the morning or afternoon, depending on wherever you are in the world. And let's keep pushing the message of mentorship all over the world, wherever you are. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you to all the panelists. That was great talking to you.
Pleasure.
Yes, agreed. Thank
Stay
you.
in touch.
I am a leader, and resilience taught me how to persevere. I used to let stress get the best of me, which I learned growing up in an extremely dysfunctional family. I became a toxic perfectionist as well as a workaholic. I ignored all the warning signs my body was sending me that I needed to take better care of my health. I was younger, ignorant, and taking my health for granted. Until 2018, when I ended up in the emergency room and in an extended stay in ICU with a serious case of diabetic ketoacidosis. My body was eating itself alive. I realized then that I was trading my health for my career, and that is a very bad trade. Ever since then, I've been mentoring others on how to better take care of their health and lead with grace and success. This is how I lead forward.
I am a leader. I don't have all the answers. There are seasons when I carry vision without even having clarity. When people come to me for direction, yet I'm still learning, I'm still praying, I'm still growing. Leadership has taught me that it's okay to ask for help, to listen deeply, and to move on regardless, even if the path is not clear. I lead by serving, I lead by learning, and I lead by growing, because I've learned that leadership is not only about responsibility, it is not about perfection, but it's about responsibility. It's about showing up anyways and being consistent in what I do. And this is how I lead forward.
I'm a leader, and I lead with purpose, not fear. Early in my journey, I believed leadership meant having the answers, being certain, being strong, being right. But building companies, failing, rebuilding, and walking beside founders taught me something deeper. Real leadership isn't control, it's clarity in chaos. It's helping people see options when they feel trapped. I don't lead from the front shouting directions. I lead by creating perspectives so others can move with confidence, ownership, and intent. When people reconnect with purpose, momentum follows naturally. This is how I lead forward. This is what I write in my book, The Purpose Seekers.
I am a leader. I was born to a modest couple in the Philippines, the youngest of 4 girls. My mom was my greatest influence. I take after her with her kindness and creative problem-solving discipline. I have been in California for 22 years now. I joined an internet consulting company in Silicon Valley as business development manager in 2002, became chief operating officer and part owner after 8 years, then exited in 2020 to focus on the Mentoring Club, my give back passion project. The Mentoring Club connects working people to accomplished leaders for leadership development mentoring. With a growing community of hundreds of mentors, mentees, volunteers, donors, and partners globally, we are giving the gift of leaders to the world.
What is my vision for the Mentoring Club? When I started the Mentoring Club in 2016, I declared that our mission is to provide a mentoring community for young leaders. When we launched, not only young leaders signed up, mid-career people and advanced career people signed up. And so we evolved our mission to provide a mentoring community for aspiring and seasoned leaders, where seasoned leaders refer to both the mentors and the mentees. Today, anywhere in the world, we help working people find mentors who can guide them to develop the skills they need to achieve their career and life goals. We help mentees fulfill their goals through meaningful work that creates positive impact in the world. We believe that when we're doing meaningful work, that's when the leaders in us come out because we care about the results. And when we care about the results, then that is how we can make a positive impact in the world. Ultimately, my vision is that as mentees become successful leaders, my dream is for them to become mentors to others. And that's how the cycle of giving back can continue, hopefully without end, hopefully even long after I'm gone.
When Lisel put that vision on the screen, it made it so easy for me, one, to take in, and two, to brag and share. This is what the Mentoring Club is about. Now, contrast that with, here's a one-page brochure. Read it and then share it. I'm not likely to do that, but just because Lisel made it easy for me to see a picture, the best part of the picture, I could see myself in that picture.
One of the ways we attract people into the Mentoring Club is to share our leadership core values. Our anchor values are trust, leadership, and community. Under trust, we believe that integrity, honesty, and commitment are what make us trustworthy as individuals and professionals. Under leadership, we believe that health, vision, and execution are all needed to be successful leaders. One without the others pretty much leads to nothing. We have to have all of them. And it is understandable that not all of us will be great at both visioning and execution. So if you're great at visioning, find somebody to help you execute. And if you're great at execution, find somebody whose vision you can support and help execute. That way, both of you can become successful leaders. And the last anchor value, community. Under community, we believe that humanity, contentment, family are the social grounding forces that make us feel fulfilled and happy. At the end of the day, even though we're successful as leaders, if we don't have anybody to share that success with, then it will be a lonely success. And so we encourage everybody to think about their values. And if those values align with ours, then this may be just the right community to be a part of. What are the proofs that the vision and the mission are being realized? Throughout this conference, I invite you to watch some of the testimonials that our mentors and mentees are sharing about their experiences within the community.
You don't have all the answers necessarily, but if you can kind of bring somebody through, listen to what their circumstance is, what they're trying to achieve, and see if you can add any value to that, and help them think through the challenges that they're going through. I don't necessarily think it's always my place to solve the problem. I think that's the responsibility of the person themselves. But if I can coach or give some advice or encourage or suggestions or other scenarios, that's for me. And I think a big important part of that, and particularly with CAN, is that somebody is just open to the process, that they're open to be part of this, to hear some different things. And they might not necessarily agree with everything that they hear with, but at least they're open to participate in hearing about it. And they might go, that's perfect, or that's something that I can work with, or no, I don't think that is useful. But at least it gives the person something that they can work on.
It takes a lot of courage to start and a lot of stamina to continue. And the most important thing that I think anyone interested needs to do is to soul search to make sure they can be consistent on the path. I find that tenacity to keep going can be challenging with all the noise and everything grabbing at our attention. From my standpoint, the most important thing is that if you're going to commit, have stamina to stay in it.
With Emily, Lizelle assigned me to watch her video first on YouTube, and after watching it, I learned so much from it and immediately knew I wanted her to be my mentor. I listened to her story, got inspired more, and wanted to learn the EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. On our first session, I told Emily that J. Paul and I are creatives, and management discipline is one of our biggest challenges. So she gave me EOS materials for me to work on so I can learn and apply. And I shared also with her that we are preparing our pitch deck to a valued client and needed help on how we could improve on it. Both mentorships helped us close that pitch with our valued client, and we opened 2 new businesses this year. Yes, mentoring really matters.
Hi, I am Manju Abraham, and I am a leader. I know that people matter more than metrics. I have led large, complex transformations across organizations as a VP of engineering at companies like Hewlett-Packard Enterprise and Delphix. Very early on, as an architect and manager itself, I learned that results follow when people understand the purpose, feel respected and valued, and know that they belong. Trust is key. Leadership is not about driving numbers first. It is about creating clarity, explaining the why, and setting direction. We have to define goals and measures of success and give them the chance to own it. Metrics do matter, but they are indicators, not the mission. When results fall short, it is rarely a motivation problem. It's usually a resource or a process issue asking to be addressed. That is where leadership matters most. Remove friction so people can take ownership, move with confidence, and do their best. That is how I lead forward confidently.